This is Anime Out of Context, a comedy review podcast hosted by a weeb of the highest order, alongside a cynical man who knows nothing about anime. Our show features spoilers, explicit language, and poor fact-checking. Neither of our hosts are experts on any topic, and none of their opinions should be taken as fact. Thank you for listening, and enjoy.
Hello and welcome to Anime Out of Context, the show where I attempt to explain the sometimes weird, sometimes wonderful, but always hilarious world of anime.
And I abstain.
I'm Sean Rollins. You're not allowed to abstain for the whole podcast, Remington. That's not how this fucking works. We have a fucking formula. You can't just break me in the intro several times and not expect me to react.
I'm Remington Chase. I just thought that maybe I'd be able to just get out of this week. And I thought that I'd start out like simply, right? So I'm still here, but that maybe you could just like cover it.
And just then slowly phase yourself out of the podcast entirely.
Yeah, and then like maybe if I just do it less and less, like week by week, a gradual process, nobody will notice, right? And then it's just you talking to yourself about anime and occasionally asking for a second opinion that never comes.
Quite frankly, Remington, the problem is I do that anyways. That's just our show. But massively less entertaining, because nobody wants to listen to me talk to myself for as long as I tend to on the regular.
Well, since I cannot abstain, I guess what are we doing this week, Sean? Last week was a nice break from all of the oof that I'd been faced with. Hopefully, the streak of positivity continues a little bit because my wounds aren't fully healed. And that's what I'm hoping for.
I mean, that would be a good thing to hope for, Rem.
Don't have a ton of hope, Sean. I've used up all of my small amount of hope on this, so I just want you to know, if that's not the case, I am, in a very true and literal sense, hopeless.
I've thought you were hopeless for many years, Rem.
You know what? So did I. Frankly, I'm amazed that I'm still going, especially with this podcast.
You know what? That is a very fair assessment, my friend. But today, Remington, I wanted to do something special.
Oh, no.
For me.
Oh, no. It's gonna be bad shonen.
Hey,
You're gonna be
okay.
like, here's what I liked when I was 14. It's just really good and nostalgic. It's one of my favorites of all time. And then it's going to be fucking awful and it'll have no character development. It'll be the same exact type of shonen we've seen a billion times already because you're shonen goddamn trash. And I'm gonna die on the inside and I'm gonna destroy it. And you're gonna be like, now come now, Remington. I don't think it was that bad. In fact, I really like it. And I'll be like, I don't give a damn that you like it, Sean. It's shitty.
Do you really think I sound like that?
I'll be honest, I don't really remember what you sound like. Most of the time you're speaking, you are just the parents from the Peanuts, and so I just hear wah, 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 and that's about it, occasionally with some Japanese catchphrases thrown in.
Yada yada does it.
Yeah, about that, yeah.
Yeah, basically. That's not too far off, honestly. But no, Remington, today we're going to be watching a show that I really enjoyed when I was 14.
Hey, here we go!
And when I was 15 and 16, 17, 18, 19, etc., until you get to the man that I am today. Because, Remington, today, I want to do one of my favorite anime of all time because we're up to episode 70 and I've been wanting to do it for ages, but I've been hesitant to do so because you're going to make fun of it and you're going to hurt me, even though this is the anime that kind of cured my depression.
Oh no! Now you're turning me into even more of an asshole when I inevitably hate it.
Yeah, and I use the term cure very lightly because depression is not something that you can just magically whisk away.
No, but it helped you push through it in some of your darker moments.
Yes, and if I'm feeling sad, I think of this particular show, which is a little weird due to the fact that this show has made me cry on several occasions.
Okay. This is optimistic.
Yeah.
Maybe instead of going like the shitty JoJo route or something like that, instead we're gonna go along the lines of A Place Further Than the Universe, which is way better, and that's a lot more interesting and a lot better for me. That's what I'm hoping.
Well, I did say when I was 14, didn't I?
Yeah, but I mean, maybe
It is
14-year-old
shonen.
Sean liked something good.
I did. Thank you very much.
Well, we'll see about that.
This is easily one of my favorite anime of all time.
Oh, fuck.
I've had it at my number one slot for years, and the only reason I wonder if it should still be at my number one slot is whether or not the sentimentality and what it did for me as a person outweighs some of the stuff I've seen more recently. Things like A Place Further Than the Universe, Anohana, Mob Psycho 100, excuse me.
1000, the greatest sequel.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be like the 10th sequel? What would you call a 10th sequel? Just the Dequel? No.
Yeah, no, Dequel would work.
Dequel.
Which also is just my rap name. Ayo, I'm the Dequel. What's up?
With your hit album Dodeca Fuck.
I'm the Dequel. Get ready for Dodeca Fuck and ready to rock.
A few years
See, I enjoyed Dequel far more than I should, even though, what chances are this is going to be an inside joke that I bring up occasionally and no one else gives a shit about.
I think the real issue is that people will be very sad every time you mention it because sadly Dequel passed away a few years ago due to the excessive STDs from his dodeca fucking.
Oh, damn.
It's a real tragedy, quite frankly.
He should have known better, but he didn't.
He was like one entire herpy.
All right, so it's going to be a shonen this week.
Yes, it is.
Which is rough. And it's going to be shonen that at least existed nearly 10 years ago, if not more, which is always rough, especially because that's starting to get pretty close to the dark ages of anime, or if it's old, then just old anime, which also is bad.
It is anime from the mid-2000s.
Okay, that might be decent then.
In fact, it's considered to be in one of the best years of anime, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, those years being, what was it, 2006? Words. I know how to speak. Wait, did you just say Hamilton?
Yep.
Okay, just making sure. God damn it, Rem.
All right, as you were saying, Sean.
Some of the most popular years in anime were 2006, 2007, and 2011. This anime came out in 2007.
Okay, perfect. Okay, maybe there's some optimism.
Yeah, it's done by a studio known as Studio Gainax.
I don't think I've ever heard of them.
I don't think you have. And as for whether or not we've seen anything from them specifically, the answer to that, Remington, is, well, no.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so this is my introduction. They better impress me.
I hope they do.
Well,
because I don't know what I'm going to do if you ultimately crush this show as a whole for me, because, like I said, Rem, I was in a really dark place when I first saw this show,
Sean, I want to make you a promise right here, right now. First,
okay.
I want to tell you that as a friend, I sincerely appreciate you. As a co-host, I admire the work you put in, even if you punish me greatly, and I am sure that this anime has a certain degree of merit that helped you through. That being said, my promise to you is that I'm not going to hold back. If it's bad, I am going to say it's bad.
Oh, god damn it, Remington. This is genuinely one of my favorite anime of all time. This is the thing that made me decide to not be such a wimp all the time.
Ooh.
Which, granted, still working on that.
It's a gradual process.
It takes some time, after all, but I have a lot more confidence because of this show. This show has taught me the power of self-confidence, because that's what this show is all about.
Oh, okay.
Believing in yourself and believing in your friends, as well as having your friends believe in you as a whole, is the overall message of this show, and the great things you can do with the power of self-esteem and friendship and all that other hokey-pokey shonen stuff that...
Is this just going to be like a really emotional way of presenting some super shonen thing like Dragon Ball?
Not Dragon Ball. I will say that Dragon Ball does deal with these themes a lot, but that's primarily because most shonen deal with these themes.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so it's like every other shonen. Good start.
Okay, first of all, no, it's not. It does share some elements because, genres and whatnot.
Of course.
But this show in particular, that's what everything comes back to, is believing in yourself as a person and the strength of who you make your friends with and what you believe in, which is a very powerful message that has helped several thousand people, I will say. This is one of my favorites of all time, and I keep saying that because I'm terrified, Rem. I'm so goddamn scared. But I'm sure you will find some merit in it, because if you don't, I will kill you.
It seems like you're trying to sort of coerce or threaten an opinion out of me, Sean.
That's because I am, Rem. You have to say some good things about this shit, or else I will murder you in the weebiest fashion possible.
All right, Shaun. Maybe it's honesty. Maybe it's a desire to not be murdered. Maybe it's Maybelline. But I'm gonna make a promise to you. I will find at least 3 good things to say about this anime by the time we're done.
Okay, one of them can't be the cute mole.
There's a cute mole?
Yeah.
Obviously, that's going to be one.
Nope, I have to challenge you a little bit.
And that probably would have been all 3.
Yeah, it's technically a pig mole, but...
What?
Yeah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You'll like him. He wears glasses. So without further ado, Remington, I want to ask you one question.
All right.
Who the hell do you think I am?
You are Shaun?
Good answer.
Yeah.
That is who I am.
You are Shaun. You are a weeb. You are a bundle of anxiety and sadism.
This is actually a really good character summary for you. If this happened to be somebody's first episode.
They understand completely.
Yeah, they're getting a good idea of what I am as a person. Which, I'll take it. But the reason I asked Remington is because that is the catchphrase of the main character of this show.
Oh, okay, of course. The catchphrase, always amazing.
Oh, come on, man. You know every hot-blooded action show needs a character with a good catchphrase.
Yeah, but I just don't like action shows. All right, well, I'm going to stay optimistic. Stay optimistic.
Yes.
All right, who the hell do you think I am? So who the hell is he?
All right. This show we're going to be talking about today, Remington, is simply known as Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann.
I really thought it would be one that I'd heard of. Never heard of it.
You haven't?
No.
Gurren Lagann doesn't ring a bell to you?
No. Is there an English translation?
No.
Oh, perfect. All right.
Because they're 2 Japanese words. Gurren Lagann, I believe it essentially translates to Crimson Drill.
Okay. This isn't the red turtle we were talking about last week, is it?
No. Trust
Wait a
me.
minute.
It's not the red turtle. Which, that movie can be summed up, I believe, by a fellow who calls himself Jello Apocalypse, summed it up as, that guy totally fucked that red turtle, didn't he?
I feel like this is just like weeb code for a sex act, just like, hey, did you get Ghibli's red turtle? And then it's just like, oh, baby, I got Ghibli's red turtle, all right.
He didn't know.
Okay, so no, Crimson Blade.
Gurren is scarlet or crimson, or Lagann is a kind of like an enveloping face, apparently.
Oh, but of course. Okay, so I know nothing about this at all.
Well, that's why we do the show, Remington. So I can tell you, or at least attempt to tell you before we watch it.
All right, well, what do I need to know?
So this is first I will let you know, on Mal, I know you don't trust the weebs, but this is important to note. It has an 8.72.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's very high.
It's ranked number 41 out of all anime.
Wow.
Yep.
That means so many people are going to be angry if I dislike it.
Yeah, in fact, everybody's going to be angry at you, Remington. Because even if they don't jive with the emotional stuff, the badass action stuff in it is their cup of tea, and if you don't like that either, people are going to be very upset at you.
Oof.
So this setting is a post-apocalyptic wasteland. People have been living underground in these pits colonies for years, and the only way for them to properly...
Wait a minute.
Yes, Remington?
I might know what this is, Shaun.
You might know because I might have showed it to you years
ago. And there's a big red robot with a drill or some shit.
Yes.
And we watched like the first episode years ago, and I didn't give a shit because I was not obligated to give a shit. And we saw them, and there were a bunch of characters. I hardly know anything about them even after watching the first episode, but I wasn't really paying attention. And after I think it was like the first episode, or maybe we watched more than that, but I don't know.
I think we watched 2 episodes because it was after we went to Disneyland together.
Oh, it was. Oh, well, what a pleasant picture we are painting.
While you were crushing my dreams. Yes.
Yeah, and then they like break out, and that's about where we got. We didn't get much more than that. But yeah, it's like they find a bunch of people. They're in a little hut, in like a Fallout style hut, except just more hut. It's just a cave.
Can you say
system.
hut one more time for me?
Hut. It's a cave system, and they find something that I can't remember what they find, and they're like, oh, okay, and then shit breaks loose. Shit goes crazy. Shit goes awry. There's multiple mechs. but I think the red mech, is it smaller than the others? There's something about it.
Yes, it is much smaller than the others.
Yeah, it's a small boy compared to the other real big boys. And so big boys show up and they're trying to kick small boys' ass and blah, blah, blah. They get out and that's what I know. Yeah.
You are actually really close, Remington. When you said you'd never heard of it, I was a little hurt. But I figured I'd just roll with it, but you actually remember something for once.
No, yeah, from 40 minutes of my life years ago that I was hardly paying attention to. I'm actually impressed with myself.
After a 12-hour drive.
Yeah, no, it's astonishing.
It was how I got you to watch it in the first place, and I was like, I'm going to take my advantage of this. Because it was the one time I wasn't driving during that whole fucking trip.
Yeah, okay. I recall this now, vaguely.
Yeah.
All right, so fill in any details. I didn't say, though, frankly, I think I nailed it, so the more you say, the more offended I will be.
I don't care about offending you, so we should be good. So the way this show starts is, yes, there is a village of people living underground in a post-apocalyptic kind of wasteland. The only way for them to expand is to be drilling tunnels deeper and deeper, because the one rule that they have is to never go to the surface, and that has propagated to the point where people believe there is nothing up there. And in this setting, we have two main characters. We have Simon and Kamina. They were born and raised deep in this underground village, hidden from the quote-unquote surface that may or may not exist to them. Kamina is kind of like your free-spirited, cool older brother character.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's like, hey, man, you're a great guy, and I can't wait to see what you're gonna do next. This is amazing, and I believe in you, you believe in me. Let's go do some cool stuff. But he's also kind of a big, dumb goofball in a lot of ways. Like, his manly spirit confidence is his main character feature, and it gets him into just as much trouble as it does inspire his friends and family.
I was really relating to him until you talked about his big manly spirit, and then that all went out the window.
See, now, Remington, manly spirit doesn't just mean, like, big muscles and toughness and Arnie. Why is it that Arnie always comes up when we're talking about manly spirit?
Because he's the epitome of it.
I'd love to meet Arnie one day. Wouldn't that be just the greatest?
One day we'll show him some anime.
Yeah. I think Arnie would like
Special guest Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Hey, how you doing?
Oh, God.
My very offensive Arnie impersonation.
But yeah, so as you were saying, manly spirit?
Manly spirit is more translated into self-confidence than it is just straight up being man.
I mean, I got the self-confidence, but just not any type
of toughness or manliness.
Trust me,
I'm not there either. I'm working on it. But I'm there. And his whole goal is to make a name for himself and, just kind of be a big name up top and to go to the surface where he firmly believes exists because his father was there, took him up there himself when he was young.
Oh, yeah.
And decided that he wasn't ready for it and had him go back down to live in the village where he'd be safe.
This is just a Fallout plot line.
It is. But that's fine, because I love Fallout.
All right, and then the other character?
Pre-Bethesda bullshit, of course. We won't talk about that. That's for another type of show.
Of course.
And, has grown up underground throughout these years. And whereas Simon is kind of a rather shy, timid young lad who has little to no self-confidence, and the only thing he really has going for him is that he likes to dig his tunnels and occasionally find treasure buried in there. And the story really starts when he does find some treasure.
Oh man, and then he
Oof. Oof.
That's not going to be kept in the episode.
No, it is not.
Dylan, don't keep that in the episode. That was a joke for you, Dylan, not for the public.
Now that you've addressed it, he's just going to keep it in,
Dylan,
and then we're going to get a lot of flack from our
Dylan,
listeners.
This isn't me asking you. We have a lot of Dylan.
We
don't want to our most Dylan.
Even though some of the best folks are the people who make fun of their own.
No, yeah, but we love them. We don't want them to feel excluded.
I went to.
I want to make the joke because I believe in it and it's funny, but I don't want them to feel excluded. It's a joke for Dylan.
Oh, man. And one day, he actually finds some little bit of treasure, a little tiny glowing drill that he fashions into a necklace.
Yeah, there we go. So, okay, yeah, that's what I remember finding.
Yes. And then he finds out that it is actually a key to another piece of treasure he finds when he's digging later, a giant face.
Yeah, and then, like,
And
that face is the little robot or something,
Yes.
right? And then he goes, and then he vrooms it, and...
Yes, he goes in and he finds the face, and using that face, it turns out it's an actual pilotable mech, which is good because shortly before
I remember feeling like the mechs had very weird designs.
they're giant faces with arms and legs, Rem.
Yeah, okay, then that explains why I didn't remember what they looked like. I remembered red, and I just remember my emotional response in that they looked fucking weird.
And that's okay to think, Remington, because honestly, this is a mecha anime, but it's a mecha anime that makes fun of mecha anime, while also making itself to be a great mecha anime.
See, now there's two ways that it can go about doing it. It can go the way where it's like, hey, we're actually going to be self-aware and funny, or it can be like, hey, we're going to just do all the tropes, but we're going to just say that we're doing them, though, and that's supposed to be enough.
It's not
Or as
the
I call
latter.
it, the Rosario Vampire.
It's not the Rosario Vampire, I can tell you that for a fact.
Thank God.
The characters truly believe in what they're doing, but the way a lot of the fights are handled are very goofy in a lot of fashion. There's literally a bit where, quite frankly, a mech throws another mech like a baseball through another mech.
I love it.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. There's a certain bit of levity and humor to a lot of the fight scenes, as well as just some awesome badass action scenes. And the designs of the mechs are quite amusing in the fact that they're all just giant heads with arms.
Yeah, and then there's this whole, like, there's an argument of, like, we should go to the surface, but, like, the mayor or whoever's in charge
Yes.
or some person of
The
authority.
village chief, yes.
Yeah, they're like, fuck out of here.
There's nothing else out here. I'm in charge and you're an idiot.
Yeah.
Basically, as does happen in our leadership positions these days.
Oh, how unfortunate it would be if someone in a position of power decided to abuse that power, especially if they then used it to make their dearest friend watch Conception. But fortunately, we don't have that problem over here.
No, that'd be horrible. What kind of monster would do a thing like that, Remington? Especially to himself.
So we got, like, the chief who's like, don't do it. Is that when shit breaks loose?
Yeah, there's a lot of arguments going down, and then out of nowhere, the ceiling collapses, and a giant robotic monstrous face falls through.
Yup.
Followed by a single girl who is in the process of trying to shoot it to pieces with a powerful electric sniper rifle.
Yeah, all right, yup.
Yep, and
I didn't learn a lot about her when I saw just like bare basics because
Yes.
I didn't see a lot.
her name is Yoko.
Good old Yoko Ono.
Okay.
What amazing singing talents she has.
Oh, she broke up the Beatles. Let's not talk about that. I was hoping you wouldn't make that joke, Rem. I felt like it was just a little too low-hanging fruit for you.
Is there such thing, Sean? There's no such thing as too low-hanging of fruit. I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel 24/7.
Fair enough. I mean, people still think we're funny after all these episodes, which is kind of a nightmare.
Do I have a realization for them?
It's not a good one. But yes, this face crashes down, and Yoko is in the process of trying to fight it back, and they come up with the idea to go to this face after recognizing, hey, that giant face is like the tiny face I found. Well, the other giant face, but not as big of a giant face.
Yeah. And then he goes to it, he vrooms it.
Yes.
And then...
They use it to defeat the monster and fly up to the surface with one of the coolest establishing shots of the entire series. A big spinning shot where you can kind of see both the twilight and the evening sky, the sun, the moon, and the horizon of this big desolate wasteland. But the colors and beauty of it are just amazing, and you get the real sense of wonder as to seeing this surface that has only been talked about for 20 minutes, and these characters who have never likely seen it before, plus this one character who's lived on it for most of her life.
Well, you know what? I think I'm starting to be a little bit optimistic. Maybe not quite that I will love it, but I might like it. And I think it may even be probable that I don't absolutely hate it.
Honestly, that's all I'm hoping for, Rem, that you don't absolutely hate it. There are going to be some things in it that you absolutely despise. I can guarantee that, and I'm okay with you not being a fan of it. I will say that the creators of the show love their fan service.
Oh, no.
But it's a two-sided street. Both the guys and the girls are rather scantily clad throughout a lot of it.
Well, we'll see how much it affects what could be used for character or story building moments, because I recall that Kill la Kill decided to forgo some character and story moments in favor of that shit, and that's the problem. If you just happen to have some fan service, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's when it takes away from other things, or when it's just done in a blatantly offensive manner, that it becomes problematic.
I will say that...
Oh, here we go.
You're not going to like a lot of it, but the majority of people who aren't big fans of fan service still absolutely love this anime, and the fan service is just kind of there occasionally, and you don't really notice it all that much. In the first episode, it's very prominent, I will say that. But as the show goes on, you don't care because you're so enraptured by everything else that's going on. And it's honestly okay because the characters feel like they've made the choice to dress like that, which is...
We'll see about that. I'll be the judge of this, Shaun.
Yeah, trust me. There's a lot of talk about it. And I will also say that this is the show that led to the creation of Studio Trigger, the studio that made Kill la Kill.
Oh.
And Kill la Kill is powered by a lot of spirit from Gurren Lagann, but through various different means. And
my optimism is starting to dwindle the more you speak, Shaun.
yeah, that's why I didn't want to mention it, but I have to because I have to be honest. Honestly, this show is special to both me and several dozen people, and it's a relatively short show, only 27 episodes.
Only.
Remington, you do realize there are shows with several hundred episodes that aren't anime?
Just because you're like, hey, the Pacific Ocean, that would be a lot to drink, isn't it? It's like, yes, I fully agree that the Pacific Ocean is a lot to drink. So would an entire basement full. If a basement was full of water, that would still be a lot to drink. No, it's not the Pacific Ocean, but it's still a lot.
You're such a baby when it comes to binging shows, Remington.
When it comes to binging anime, specifically, especially shonen.
I will also say that the characters in this show have development throughout the entire series, and the whole series is divided evenly into 2 parts.
Oh, perfect. A series divided into 2 separate parts.
Yep.
I remember last time it was done with such great success in all-stars like Sword Art Online.
I will say, Remington, that the parts that the show is divided into involve a bit of a time skip. So, but
my optimism is just really tanking.
I know. I figured the longer we talked about it, the more it would be, but I have to prepare you for every eventuality. But I am telling you right now, Remington, this show changed my life as a whole, changed many people's lives as a whole. It inspired people to do all kinds of fantastical things. Even young nerdy me who was obsessed with Minecraft actually created one of the mech bases in Minecraft because I love this show so much, which is
Jesus Christ.
Which is quite the task considering the absolute scale of some of the mechs in this show.
Well, I guess I'm as ready as I'll ever be.
Yes,
Shaun.
The only thing I will say is the ultimate goal of this series is once they're out, they realize that every day mechs come to try and kill the people living on the surface, and at evening time they leave. So every day there's just a cycle of mechs showing up, fighting for a bit, then leaving. Excuse me. And the humans trying to defeat mechs in order to get parts so that they can better survive and hopefully fight back against them in a more better fashion.
As long as it's not just gonna be like an Attack on Titan deal, then
no.
It'll be fine.
This is actually a show that has a lot of progression in it. Once they realize that they can pilot these mechs themselves, they then decide to take the fight to whoever it is sending all of these nasty mechs to them. And then it becomes a journey of trying to stop all these bad mechs piloted by beastmen, of all things.
Oh, but of course, beastmen.
To make it stop so that all these people can come out from underground and live on the surface like they were meant to.
Well, okay then.
Yeah, it's a post-apocalyptic redemption story in a lot of ways.
Oh, it's been a roller coaster this first part of the episode, but let's hope that it's on the more favorable side when we get to the other end.
It does have some things in it that are dated, and you'll have problems with it, Rem.
Jesus.
But honestly,
there's so many caveats here.
There are. And also, I have one final question that's related to our podcast.
Oh, no.
I goofed a little bit. in our entire block of 60, I never used my bullshit rule.
That's fine.
And I take it you're not going to let me just have, one in my back pocket for future?
I'll tell you what, Sean. I take it that you're likely to use the bullshit rule today.
Yes.
I'm going to go to our Discord. I'm going to gauge their response on what is the fair and just thing to do. And
Okay.
depending on their response, will determine whether or not you're able to have another bullshit. So
And-
you can still use yours today, but it's just whether or not that covers for the 60 to 70 or the 70 to 80.
And when you do, tell them that I will be posting a poll of which show they'd like me to use the bullshit rule on from a small list, because I have a couple I need to do, but I want their input because that will also help them be more likely to side with me.
You son of a bitch.
Hey, man, if you're going to do this, it's fair that I get a say in it as well.
Let the propaganda campaign begin.
Oh, man, vote for Team Shaun in this one because I've got some good shit I want to show you. And it is genuinely good stuff, but this one is primarily for me as a person. So without much further ado, Remington, let's go watch some Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann.
What a mouthful.
8 whole episodes of Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann. And folks, I have to say that this is going to be a rough one for me. Not so rough for Remington, but especially rough for me.
I mean, it was already rough for me. I'm past the rough bits.
Yeah, but nobody cares about you, Remington. As is evidenced by a lot. But before we really get into it, Rem, I do want to send some thank yous out.
Oh, of course.
Because this was recommended to us by quite a couple people.
Okay, well, let's hear them.
So thank you, RJ, Brian, Christopher, Quinn, Jessica, Chris, random bunch of letters, Austin, and Stanley.
Good old random bunch of letters. You know who you are.
Look, if you're going to make your username a random bunch of numbers followed by a number, it's not going to be very pronounceable.
How would you try and pronounce it? Give it a go. Perfect.
That's about as good as I can get. It's more consonants than it is vowels, so it's not exactly straightforward and easy. And
Fantastic.
might I remind you, Remington, that this anime is considered one of the best anime of all time by many people, and has cured quote unquote, many people's dark thoughts and depressions. It has brought in people from the brink. It has changed people's lives, including your co-hosts. So please be gentle. It's our first time.
All right, well, then let me start out by saying I think this is a great anime.
What?
For the 7 to 12 demographic.
Okay, first of all, oh my god.
What? That's not a bad thing. That's a compliment. That's a good thing, Sean.
Why can't you ever say something nice without having a backhanded side to things?
I don't know why there has to be a backhanded side of things.
Considering that this anime was targeted towards ages between 12 and 18, and
it would succeed very well for the lower half of that demographic, I think.
it succeeded very well for that higher graph of that demographic too, you jackass.
Well, then I start to disagree a little bit.
Okay, then let's hear it, because I have plenty of rebuttals for you on this one, because, my god, Remington, this is one of my favorite of all time, and I have plenty of good reason for it, and I will tell you right now, the main reason all of your opinions are going to be mostly pointless is due to the fact that the biggest value of this show comes from the complete show itself. People are going to be very angry at me for stopping you at only 8 episodes, but if I want you to eventually like this show, Remington, which is why I stopped when I did, because if I go any farther, you're going to just hate it out of the sheer principle of the thing.
Yeah, well, I did see like 3.5 hours of content here, so even though I haven't seen absolutely everything, I feel like I can give some general feedback and be decently well informed.
You think that, but everything that happens after episode 8 has a complete tonal shift and characters change quite drastically to the point where things get very interesting.
Is that when the show gets good?
Technically, yes. Technically, yes.
Because I'll be honest, I was going into it just optimistic. I thought, all right, Sean doesn't have great tastes.
Okay, hey.
But this is his number number one.
One of them.
This is so high up for him, and so it has to at least be decent. Haven't so far seen that. I thought I would. Even after we saw around like 3 episodes, I was still like, okay, maybe. It just didn't have a great first impression, but now it's gonna kick it into gear, and it still didn't really at all. Yeah.
Remington. Oh, Remington. If you knew the things I knew about this show, your tune may change a bit. But I will say this, the weakest part of this entire series is the first couple episodes.
I mean, first couple, we got to episode 8.
Of 27.
Oh, first of all, too many episodes. Second of all, but still 8 episodes. That should be plenty to start developing something.
And they have developed quite a lot. The things that they developed just aren't clear to you yet, Remington.
The things that they've developed just aren't good to me, Shaun.
That's not how this works at all, Rem.
So how should we start dissecting this show, Shaun?
Honestly, Rem, this is complicated for me because I have so many things I want to say about this show, but I can't, simply due to the fact that you've only seen a third of it.
Well, I have so much that I want to say about this show, and fortunately I can, so...
Might I just remind you that in all of the anime listed on Mal currently, would you care to take a guess at what rank this is?
Yeah, I think you said it was something like 40-something?
43rd.
Yeah.
8.71. It's one of the highest rated anime we've ever seen, Remington.
I know, and I strongly disagree.
Again, the value
Maybe. You know what, Shaun? I'm going to take you at your word here and say, okay, it gets better. My advice to everyone, similar to My Hero Academia, just skip the first 8 episodes. Just skip them. I assure you, this is another flashback show. They'll fill you in. You will not be lost. I could have started watching on episode 7 or 8, and I would have had all of the knowledge I do now. Like you do, you can just skip ahead. That's fine. And this is with the assumption I'm trusting Shaun here. It gets better, so skip everything I've seen so far.
Except you're forgetting the most important parts of the show. The things that set up the baseline for all of the important actions to come are displayed in the first 8 episodes, though they are, quite frankly, a bit on the shallow side.
All right
now.
Perfect. So they can just skip them, and they'll get basically the same.
Let me just put it to you this way, Remington. This show kind of has a Hitchcockian effect to it.
Oh, I'm so skeptical.
Once you've seen the entire show and you go back and watch it from the beginning, and you know what's going to happen, what this entire show is ultimately building up to, you get this kind of fondness and attachment to all of these characters where they started, and some sympathy for a lot of the main characters.
So here's what you do. You skip the first 8 episodes for now, and if it's as good as you say, then you go back and watch the first 8 episodes, and then you'll have that appreciation already, because it's real hard to start with the appreciation, because oof.
Oh my god. I'm not going to get through to you on this one, am I?
Almost certainly not. I haven't written this much of notes since like Sword Art Online, where I always write way too many notes. There's over a page just full of notes.
All right, let's just hear them then. I'll counter them as best as I can, but I'll tell you right now, Rem, nothing you can say will ever dampen my opinion of this show. The only thing you'll do is just make me sad as a person. And that's the same for everybody out there who loves this show.
And once again, Shaun, I'm gonna keep trusting you. It's a good show with a terrible first 8 episodes. And so you can keep loving this show. You can even love the first 8 episodes, but you shouldn't love the first 8 episodes in of themselves. Maybe in reference to the big picture that you've talked about, but not in of themselves, because in of themselves, they are an oof, and they are just a big oof. So should we start out a play-by-play, character-by-character, point-by-point? What do you think, Shaun?
Honestly, Rem, I'm going to be sad either way, so let's just take it from the top.
All right. So the story starts, and you have Deku Light, as I came to think of him. You have Deku Light and...
Simon?
Yeah, good old Simon. And Simon is like, I like to dig treasure. And then he immediately finds the important treasure. This is the only example of important treasure that we see him hunt for, except for the other important important treasure. We never see him like search for or find any other treasure. It just tells us, I hunt treasure. That's why I found the important things, and that's it. So great example of telling rather than showing there, but it's the beginning. I understand. Good old exposition dump. And then we quickly see, let's see, we got Simone, then we got presumably Pumbaa. So we see his big friend Pumbaa.
I'm not acknowledging that.
It's a good one. Come on.
I don't approve.
Oh, come on. So he was Kamina, yeah. Good old Kamina, who is the best character, and he's good a solid like 50% of the time. And so, especially early on, he gets worse as it goes on. So they meet up, and Kamina is like, my dad took me to the surface, and I'm gonna go to the surface. And everyone is against them. Everyone is like, don't be ridiculous. And nobody else has a personality, because why would they? We live in a very small little bubble here. If you're not a main character, you're irrelevant as all hell. We talked about with Ghibli, we talked all about like great world building. It feels like everyone's alive. No, in this one, the only things that matter are the things immediately on the screen and the things happening to our protagonists. And so then they go, and they also Kamina gets like in some trouble.
Yep.
Sure. And he immediately abandons his crew.
Well, they, more on the line, go against his ideals.
I mean, very slightly, and then he very quickly is just like, all right, later. Doesn't seem like there's strong loyalty from anyone so far.
No. Kamina is incredibly loyal. They're the ones who just out of nowhere decided to bow out and reject him just to get dinner as opposed to facing their punishment.
I still feel like it wasn't great showing from him because loyalty was supposed to be the emphasis.
Well, it's also due to the fact that Kamina's not the greatest person ever.
Certainly not. And we'll get into their personalities a little bit more later. So Kamina, he gets in trouble. He gets put in the little jail in this underground society from the super bad mayor who's just super against everything. And at one point he had a really weird line the mayor did talking about like, I don't do this out of the goodness of my heart. I do this to make life better, which feels like it's out of the goodness of his. It's very weird. The dialogue is mediocre.
Well, that's partially due to the translation we watched. I had a hard time finding the more clean cut version because apparently you can't really stream this show in HD anywhere, oddly enough. And the subs were very clearly from the early 2006 era.
Yeah, but nonetheless, whether it's because of the subs or otherwise, the dialogue the whole way through was very mediocre. And that's being somewhat generous. So then we have Deku Light. He goes and he's digging around. He finds a face and he wants to go tell Kamina. So he digs up through the prison and he's like, Kamina, come, I found a super cool thing. And Kamina's like, all right, cool. And so they leave, and as they're leaving, then all of a sudden this giant dragon face pops from out of the ceiling, and it's crazy and gigantic and terrifying. Oh, spooky, right? And along with that, there's good old Sinon, and
Simon.
Oh no, I'm not talking about Simon. I'm not talking about Sinon from Sword Art Online.
Okay, hold on.
Because they're the same fucking archetype. Oh, I'm just gonna be a scantily clad pretty girl with a rifle. This one's a little bit more fiery of a personality, but still they only exist to be meat so far. And I will emphasize that point at multiple times because boy, this show does not give a shit. Thus far. Once again, just the first 8 episodes.
You're hurting me,
It gets
Ram.
amazing after the first 8 episodes, so I'm told. But the first 8 episodes are real bad. So, the big dragon creature, and they're like, wait a minute, but the mech we found earlier, the face we found earlier. So they go to the face, and the girl is just like, yeah, sure, I'll go with you, for very poorly explained reasons. Meanwhile, she's sort of trying to fight this creature, and this will be an ongoing theme. Her with her rifle, it multiple times tells us that she's very talented with it, but she does next to nothing with the rifle when it comes to these giant gunmen, right? She's horribly ineffective so far. She's done almost nothing of note with her rifle. At one point, very much later on, I think it was episode 7, or I think it was episode 7, she says something along the lines of, if only I had my rifle, but she's done nothing with it. She is ineffective against the gunmen with it, so I don't know why they keep trying to pretend she's a threat thus far. Maybe she becomes one later, but she is not a threat
She
yet.
was a threat in episode 8. Did you not see her taking out some of the gunmen?
Ish. That's more a note I have about the gunmen and power creep than about her. So yeah, episode 8, she sort of starts to be a threat. Before that, she'll have like maybe one moment, and other than that, it's just like, oh, there are explosions, but they have no real impact on anything, so fuck you. And so they run, they get into the face that Deku Light found, and they get into it, and he starts like running all around. He immediately knows how to control it, and they blatantly say, you just know. Sure, why not? Who needs learning? You can just excuse it, but you just know. And so then they go and they fight, and they're doing a lot of dodging and a lot of just being hit, before eventually the Grandmaster plan eventually becomes get this dragon to swing its sword at its own head, which it for some reason does, and then they dodge. Why does it swing its sword at its head instead of continuing to grab it like it was? Because otherwise they couldn't take it down. That's it. That's because that's the way it would need to happen. It's not rational. It's not reasonable. But you can't have rational enemies because otherwise the heroes would die.
See, here's your problem, Remington. You're thinking this is a rational show. It's not. It was never meant to be a rational show.
No, I agree. It makes no fucking sense and it doesn't care to.
That's the whole point.
But here's the thing, Shaun. If you want there to be any stakes in a show, as I've mentioned many times, you need to have at least an internal logic. Now, if I'm watching a cartoon, for example, right, it's fine. It can be entertaining. It can even be high stakes, even if it's really goofy and wacky, because it has an internal logic. I'm not asking for it to have the actual laws of physics. I'm just saying if your characters are going to turn on and off rationality at any given point, then their actions will never truly mean much because anything can happen. Meanwhile, if there are internal rules, then there can be stakes because I know if something happens, oh no, then that means this. If X, oh no, then that means Y. How will they get out of it? Right now, if X, anything, so whatever's convenient. That's how it goes. And that's just way less interesting. So it just kills itself, because fuck you. And then they end up soaring through the top to the surface. You do get the beautiful shot that Shaun mentioned earlier. It's very nice looking. Probably the best looking thing throughout the entire show thus far. But also, it's great looking, and the animation generally is not that great looking. It'll have its moments.
It's from 2007, mate. You got to give it some leeway there.
I mean, but we've seen things from then and before then that are just way, way prettier. Its animation felt quite lazy at times. In fact, there were a couple moments that really stick out to my mind. A moment where I was like, it's doing the goddamn conception bullshit. Because at one point, characters were talking and it was just clouds. Like, you had multiple characters talking to avoid any animation. It was just clouds. And I appreciated they made some of the clouds nice pictures, which was a little bit more effort than Conception would have put in, but it was still an excuse to not do animation. There was also like a moment where a heavy hitting action scene that they did in snapshots, so you only need to animate like 5 frames for 5 seconds, which was another excuse because it's not like it's a stylistic choice that happened once and it was just a lazy decision. As well as then just the good old mech trope where like they combine, and whenever they combine, a similar / identical animation will occur because you need filler as well as flashbacks. Like it's all your typical save budget on animation stuff.
Again, 2007 Remington. And yes, we've seen things that have been better from early on, but those were mostly movies that had several $1 million budgets. Gurren Lagann didn't have that big of a budget early on.
And it's totally fine. I'm okay with saying it was from 12 years ago and it doesn't stand the test of time animation-wise. I'm okay with saying that because it doesn't seem to have. Maybe in 2007, it would have been much better, but in 2019, it does not hold up.
I've seen the remastered version, actually, where they add a bunch more frames and clean up the lines and all that stuff, and it's much prettier now.
That would be lovely to have.
Yeah, it costs money, though, Rem. I'm broke.
Even my girlfriend, who sympathizes with your tastes more than mine, especially with shonen trash, she really disliked it, and she also hated the animation to a point that I had never never even heard her complain. I think she disliked this more than I did, which is very rare.
And, oh God, it just hurts me even more.
Yeah, see, Shaun trusts her opinion over mine, and so the fact that she doesn't like it hurts him more than me not liking it. And so then the girl is like, oh yeah, I'm Yoko. After they get to the top, she finally introduces herself. And Yoko, she has a group. She has like a tribe and a little village that she has, but she has no strong connections with any of them, even though she grew up with them, because once again, we live in a bubble. So she is way more strongly related to our main characters than anybody she has spent her entire life with, which once again is decently lazy storytelling, unfortunately. And I remember thinking in the recap, and I found it very amusing, when it talked about the recap for episode 1, it talked about, or maybe it was episode 2, it talked about her, Yoko, as a beautiful girl with a rifle. Yep, that's her character. That's 90% of her character in 3.5 hours of media. She's a beautiful girl with a rifle, and that's it. And that's all she is so far, other than like a sort of fiery love interest also, but very little personality or growth on her front. She is one of the most disappointing characters, which is really unfortunate.
Oh...
So it turns out
I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this episode because I didn't show you more than 8 episodes.
Right now, everyone knows to just skip those ones.
They shouldn't
and
skip
then
those
it'll
ones.
get good. I'm trusting you. It'll get good after 8 episodes. Just skip those ones and it'll be good from the get-go. And then watch them later and then you'll be able to appreciate them. That's what Shaun believes. You'll be able to appreciate them after you've seen everything. So just see everything and then watch them. It'll be perfect. Trust me, the flashbacks will get you there. They'll carry you.
Except all the things that Kamina says and does will not have as much of an impact if you don't know what he says and does beforehand.
Don't worry, they hardly have an impact so far.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
And so it feels very much like the first couple episodes, like you're running a D&D campaign, and you're just like, all right, we need all these different characters to just suddenly meet. And D&D campaigns, they work for what they are, right? When it's just like, oh, we all suddenly met, and then crazy things are happening. But they don't work really well with, like, proper stories that you can write out and script out, and that's very much what it felt like, because all of a sudden they are just a party, they're just a group, and Deku Light and Kamina, they have a relationship. In fact, I would argue they're the only real bond in the show thus far, except for one romance that begins to bloom at the very end of what we've seen. But other than that, they're the only relationship that exists in any meaningful way at all. Other ones we're told about, but that's it. So they run from gunmen that are already there when they get to the surface. They're able to escape, and they're saved very suddenly. What a coincidence, by Yoko's group, which what a coincidence would just be a good name for this anime, because Deus Ex Machinas at every turn. Anytime you feel like something intense is happening, don't worry. Very suddenly, something that was either very poorly foreshadowed or never mentioned is just gonna happen. It'll be great. So never feel properly concerned, because there's never any reason for it. And so they get saved, and they meet everyone. They meet one person named Liron, who I've complicated feelings about Liron.
I'll tell you right now, everybody who I've talked to who is of a non-binary type and transgender or homosexual have unanimously agreed that they like Liron. So
I think Liron is a solid okay, and my main problem is how they are introduced. Liron is introduced horrendously, because it's all right, yeah, they're non-binary, but also just what a sexual deviant. They just wanna fuck. That's their main focus, and they tone it down significantly after meeting, but it very heavily just threw that in there for the meeting. I think there could have been a better introduction, but once again, it was from an older time where that was generally what any non-binary, or you could have a transgender person, or even just like a gay person, if they were in media, so often they're just the sexual deviants. It has since diverted from that quite a bit, but that first impression was not a good one.
Yeah, I can understand your criticisms there. I will say this, though. Liron does all of that flirting stuff because he thinks it's funny how they react. He doesn't actually think of these people in that way.
And that's totally fine, but when they are first introduced, that is not how it's presented in any meaningful way. And so, once again, just skip the first 8 episodes and you'll see Liron as a great character. And then by then, once you get the introduction of Liron, it won't be so off-putting. So then they prepare, they get set up, ready to fight the gunmen again, right? And they do, and then another gunman comes out that's even more powerful than the ones they were fighting. And then our big bombastic hero, he comes up with a great idea. What he's gonna do, he's gonna get in the gunman, right? Which is a fine idea. And he does, and it ends up working, right? But after that, after they sort of save the day by him hijacking the gunman, there's one of the stupidest lines of the entire first 8 episodes.
You're gonna make me very angry if it's what I think it is.
This tribe, after seeing this, they for a long time, they've been fighting these gunmen. Like, it's sort of what they do now, right? And there's a lot of them. After that, Kamina, who's like the dumbass Kamlada, he's like the stupidest person alive is how it's presented 90% of the time.
He's not, but go on.
That's how it's presented.
Yep.
So often, he's presented as the dumbest man.
That is correct, but go on.
And so they comment, they're like, we never thought about hijacking a gunman ourselves, which is one of the most ludicrous things I've ever thought of, because the first thing almost anyone would consider is, how do we get one? Let's take theirs, right? They fell to these things before. They've been in circumstances where presumably they could have, but it just never occurred to them, is how they present it. So now everyone in the entire little tribe is a dumbass, because why wouldn't you think of the most obvious thing?
Well, there is an answer to this, Remington, and you kind of glossed over it, but they did try a long time ago in the past.
They blatantly said they never even thought of it.
Yes, but hundreds of years ago, and the big issue was that they said that only beastmen could pilot them was their assumption. And we did get a bit of that, hey, this thing isn't working when Kamina got into it, but through his willpower, he overpowered the thing. Because there is only one rule in Gurren Lagann, Remington, is if you have the drive and willpower to do it, you can accomplish anything, which is, again, the point of the whole show, but you don't care, so go on.
Well, because I think that's a relatively weak point overall, but nonetheless, the fact that they say they've never even thought of it, they don't say we thought of it but thought it was impossible, they don't say we tried and failed, they say we never even thought of it, never even considered such a thing. Meanwhile, you are correct. The overall rule is if you have the will and the drive, you can do anything, assuming you are the main characters, because apparently no evil character has any sort of rationale or any fighting spirit whatsoever. And it sort of has some sort of have a little bit, but just so far, it's the main characters, they have fighting spirit. The main characters, they have a bond, which I'll talk about later. Meanwhile, any bad character, any character irrelevant, screw you. No, they don't have a history. They don't have personalities beyond this world, in this case right now. It exists in a bubble, which is really annoying.
God, it sucks that you haven't seen the rest of the series. God damn, I didn't think how frustrating this would be.
So then, once again, I'm just taking your word, Sean. This is all just for the first episodes, then it gets great. My position isn't that the show is bad, it's that you should skip the first 8 episodes.
Again, bad idea, but go on.
And so then, the next episode, they're preparing, they're like getting food and whatnot, when all of a sudden this beast man who looks very human, and he looks very human because he's going to be important, and so it's a very human looking beast man. He comes and he fights Kamina.
You don't even remember his name, do you?
Viral.
Yes. Or virile, depending on your pronunciation choice.
Oh, what a virile boy. And so they fight, right? And it's sort of a standoff position. And then Viral goes and he gets his mech, and so he gets his gunman, and then Kamina gets his, and it's very clear that Viral is just much more skilled, and so he's kicking Kamina's butt. But then Kamina calls for Deku Light, and so he gets Deku Light in his mech, and he says, all right, we gotta combine. And so he takes him as a drill and he just shoves it into his head, which was another dumb as fuck moment.
I thought it was hilarious personally.
No, it was hilarious until it worked. So let me put it that way. Because when you start making it work, once again, it's just another Deus Ex Machina. It's a great comedic moment that's in a way ruined by it actually meaning something. If it was like just a morale booster, that would have been far more interesting to me than, oh yeah, no, it actually makes them super powerful. Yeah, no, it's really, really powerful for them to actually combine and they merge together. And it was like, oh, okay. It went from being like a funny joke to, aha, saved the day for reasons. And that was just way less good. But then they had like one good thing that I genuinely liked that they have largely abandoned since then, where they sort of subverted the naming conventions of attacks, where instead of something like a comet punch, they were like a brotherly bond punch, right? And that was silly, and I enjoyed that. Unfortunately, it only has lasted that episode for the most part, and they've resorted to cliches since then, which I was very disappointed of, because I actually enjoyed that bit. That was charming to me. But then they left it. Why did they leave it, Shaun?
They do jump back to it occasionally, believe it or not. They did have it in the middle of the episode 8 as well.
But why don't they just have that be the way? It felt like, hey, yeah, we're going to be a bit self-aware about this, but then we're just going to fall into the exact same tropes 90% of the time anyway. And it's like, but no, you could do it. You were doing a good thing, and now you're just doing the same thing.
Well, it has. This is frustrating to me because I actually like shonen and you don't. Because of those jokes, when they actually do have serious named move conventions, the one at the end of episode 8, the Giga Drill Break or Breaker, depending on how you prefer to hear it, becomes one of the most impactful moves in all of anime history. And even throughout the series after that, they still occasionally do ridiculous named moves. Like even just before that, his Burning Man flying kick attack.
But that feels like it goes against sort of what the show is all about. Like it was emphasizing like the silly factors. So you'd think like the strongest things, the strongest attacks would be the ones that emphasize their bond, right? If anything, I'd like it the other way around. Make the mundane attacks just like Giga Drill Break, and then the really powerful attacks have the stupidest names.
You just said the most fucking frustrating thing on the face of the earth, saying that you don't think the main attack has to do with their bond, when that is literally the only way they can do that big attack.
I'm talking about the labels of them, Shaun.
The labels don't matter as much though, Rem.
But I'm saying in this specific regard, they let me down. I can talk about their bond, and I intend to, but that's not what's being discussed right now. So they end up combining and kicking ass, and then they steal a helmet, put it on themselves, and then it also works for also reasons that I don't think have really been touched on other than, yeah, it's a helmet. Sure, it's a gunman helmet. Yeah.
It has been touched on. The idea is that Lagann is a special gunman who, through the willpower of its user, can convert other mechs into being controlled by it and used to its own potential.
Well, and I agree with that, but like the helmet though.
That's part of it got put on Lagann.
Well, it got put on, but like with it taking over, it so far it's needed to drill everything except for the helmet that it just needs to touch, I guess. Which case, why doesn't it just need to touch other things? If it touches anything, does that just suddenly apply? But that has not been the case.
The idea is that it merged with the mech itself. It's not necessarily the drill itself, it has to actually combine with the mech. It was the idea.
And my argument is that simply arbitrarily putting on something doesn't really imply combining with it.
Also, it's because it's a really cool effect. Thank you.
There we go. There's the real reason.
That's both reasons.
That's the stronger reason of the two, Shaun.
Gurren Lagann's internal logic, loose that it is, has always been accurate every time we've seen anything done in the show.
So also, like, so far, and I'm sure this will be addressed because it has to be, but Beastmen are just, like, bad, and that's it. They're just bad, and it's just, it's a glorified race war that has so far had no basis beyond, like, we hate each other. They hate us, so we hate them. They attack us, so we attack them. And that's so far been the only basis, which I would have liked them to at least give us something in that regard. But so far, it's just Beastman bad, which is...
There is much more to it.
I'm sure there is, but 3.5 hours in, you'd think they'd give me a little more, considering they have been the main enemy so far. So far, it's very... like, if you like Power Rangers, you'll like this. That's where I'm at. Like... It's like live action Power Rangers. Just go in thinking that and you're fine. And if you love Power Rangers, you're all in. And I loved Power Rangers when I was young. So young me might like this a lot. Very young me. So then we end up getting like these guys called the Black Siblings. They come, and all that matters is the brother, the sisters. They emphasize even more that girls exist in this world to want and to be wanted, because all they want is Kamina, and they sort of help by throwing some bombs, but that's it. They just really want Kamina, and their boobs are out, and Deku Light gets shoved into one of their boobs, and that is how that goes down. That's the only reason they exist.
I forgot how much of a dick you were, Rem.
Oh, I'm sorry. Would you like to say how meaningful they have been so far?
So far, not much, but later.
Well, thank you.
Uh,
Keep in mind what I have seen, Shaun. I'm trusting you. Once again, it's a good show after this.
Let me
just
put it
not
to you
so
this way,
far.
Rem. If I could have forced you to and knew it wouldn't have any effect on your entire opinion if for pure quantity, I would have had you see the entire fucking series before I had you do this episode. But making you watch more than you can usually handle, I should say, at once is a surefire way for you to automatically hate it no matter what.
I mean, I didn't end up hating My Hero Academia. I just thought the first 9 episodes were worth skipping, and that has since been confirmed by a few people. A few people have reached out to me. They've done this with their friends, and they've said it works, so which I'm very happy about. With Full Metal Alchemist, I still liked it quite a bit. Probably my favorite traditional shonen. But if you can't get decent within 3.5 hours, I don't know what to tell you. And right now I'm just saying skip it. I'm not even saying it's a bad show. I'm just saying it's a bad 8 episodes. This sort of episode's premise is that they're hungry, and that's a major focus.
I mean, yeah, it's both a joke as well as a connection to the idea is if you're hungry, you're going to have a hard time focusing on working.
Well, I mean, but Kamina always has a hard time focusing. Maybe he gets hangry. Maybe that makes him extra powerful because fighting spirit, which fighting spirit just means whatever it has to mean at the given time. But it was a very weird. It was especially weird. I don't know how I feel about this moment. I don't think I hate it. I think I like it, but feel uncomfortable because at one point, Buddha,
I love how you remembered his name instantly.
Oh, of course, he's great. He's the best. He's adorable. Wish he was more important.
He is.
But he at one point they're struggling to manage Gurren Lagann, the combined mech, and so Buddha just wiggles its tail and then tears off its own ass.
Yep.
Not even just its tail.
Yeah.
There was a lot of ass meat there.
Yeah, you have to have enough meat to make sure they have something in their stomach.
It was so weird.
It was fucking hilarious is what it was.
It was a bit funny and also a bit uncomfortable in equal measure.
Which was the idea, yeah.
It was something I wasn't opposed to. But Buta, I'm just generally not opposed to. I mean, I really enjoyed the mole pig physics at the beginning.
Yep.
All of them running together can create a whirlwind of mole pigs. That's just physics for them. I can freely accept that. That's goofy, silly in the right way. And so then also in this episode, you have 16 different fluff ball beast men combined into one mech, right?
Yep.
So it's like a 16-face mech. But Kamina goes on this tangent and they're not as powerful because they don't have as strong as a bond, right? And ultimately, if you combine, it's the bond that matters. But why don't they have a strong bond? Just cuz? Well, and we don't see anybody else have a strong bond. So yeah, Kamina and Deku Light, they're going to be the strongest people because they're the only ones up to this point that have any meaningful bond. Everyone else, their only bonds exist, but are always weaker than the immediate bond they get with Kamina and Deku Light, which means it wasn't that great of a bond when these strangers you just met, you immediately care about way more than anybody you've ever known or loved, which has been the case for literally every main character. And so when you only have one bond, yeah, okay, I guess they're gonna be the strongest, but it's far more interesting if your villains have relationships and rationalities and lives, which just isn't the case so far.
Yeah, so far they don't, and that is, again, a point. But again, I can't say any goddamn things about it. Oh, God, I really wish I had more to say without spoiling shit. That's the hardest part.
Ultimately, what's emphasized for me, and it was emphasized around this time, to go back into a sort of D&D narrative, Kamina is just chaotic stupid to the maximum. 100%. He's just that D&D character. If you've ever played D&D, he's the one who will just interrupt the DM and be like, I do this. And you're like, are you sure? Yeah. But also they have sufficient plot armor because the story is about them, so they can't die. And so it's yeah, that woman is mine. Yeah. And it got grating towards the end of the 8 episodes. I started to think, and this was a little bit after the forehead boy arc, which was terrible, really bad. There's they fall into a hole and there's a little cult village in there, and if there were any episodes you could skip, it's fucking that one. Good fucking God, worst episode so far. None of the characters are interesting. You know exactly how it's going to go immediately, beat for beat. You could almost predict it word for word. I know I nearly did. But after that, I think with Kamina, something that would make this far interesting for me, and if this happens within episode 8 or 9, then mad props, because I don't think they have the guts to do this. I unironically think the story would get much better if Kamina, who I've acknowledged as probably the best character, certainly the most developed, died suddenly and tragic. That would be great. That'd be amazing because he's the character that means something, and everyone has already implied that everyone would be a fucking wreck without him. And that's what you need to see. You need to immediately kill him very suddenly so that, one, there are stakes. You know that this show, anything can happen, and they're not going to protect everyone like I know they're going to protect everyone because, of course, or at least the most important people. Like, I'm not ever worried for Kamina or Deku Light or Yoko. They're fine. They're always gonna be fine, at least until, like, the finale episodes. But if you show me that people can die very suddenly, if you show me that actions have consequences, then you also get, like, Deku Light. How is he gonna manage? He now has to be a man. He's been taught everything. He's been given everything he needs, but now he needs to start using it. Yoko, she can be a nice tragic figure because there's also just a sudden romance with Yoko and Kamina. That's obvious. It's going to happen the whole way through because they argue and that's it. But she has to manage that emotional grief and actually be a character, which we have not seen so far from her. The other characters would struggle to find a leader, and maybe there's a bit of a power struggle dynamic there, right? We could have that. That would be such a good, strong decision, because right now they have been doing nothing but safe decisions.
Did you not watch the fucking end of the last episode?
I mean, didn't really have an impact.
Oh my fuck. Kamina's dead. He is absolutely
Is he truly dead?
100%.
Is he?
Yes.
I'm genuinely surprised.
He is 100% dead. The only reason I stopped there was because that was supposed to be a good stopping point.
See, I didn't even think he was dead, so that's why I was skeptical.
He's dead. How? You don't get much more dead than a goodbye and a black and white smile.
I mean...
In anime, that is as dead as it gets.
All right, then I think it's a good decision. Probably should have happened a little sooner, but I agree with the decision.
It's like you didn't even see the end of that episode, Rem.
I just didn't think he actually died.
Did you not see everybody around his fucking corpse?
Oh no, I saw everyone like, and it was all like, oh, boo-hoo, but they've already tried to like be boo-hoo about things and be like, oh no, it's terrible, and then just completely subvert that. So I just didn't think he was dead. I thought it was a fake out.
Remington, one of the rules of literature is if you see a corpse, they're usually fucking dead, especially in a show that hasn't shown no signs of reanimation.
I mean, yeah, but the show also hasn't shown many signs of literary technique so far, so... I mean, I'll take it that that's my bad, but at the same time, I think I have mild justifications for my position.
You know the running gag top 10 anime deaths of all time, Remington?
I don't think that's one of them.
It's usually near the top of people's lists.
But don't get me wrong, it's the right thing for him to die. Great decision. Now knowing that is 100% the case. I genuinely just didn't believe he was gonna be really dead.
He is, and he is not coming back.
Oh, that is genuinely great to hear, because this show needed that. I didn't think they would do it.
I stopped it at episode 8 because of his death. That's why I stopped it there. I could have shown you the after effects, but I wanted you to be curious about what happened next.
No, but what I thought was, I understood that that's why you ended it there, but I thought it was going to be a situation where like I would comment on it so that I'd be even more surprised when he wasn't, or some bullshit, right? That was my thinking. But that also comes from not trusting you. But fair enough. No, they made the right decision there. One weird thing I noticed. Why do only men get mechs? Because it seems sort of real sexist. Like, you can understand Yoko not having a mech. That's okay. She has her rifle. But then even like the other black siblings, all three of the girls, none of them get mechs. In fact, they're just left behind. It's like, take care. None of the beast people have even been women. They've only been beast men. So maybe they're only a male species.
Okay, I need to stop you right there.
Has there been a beast woman?
In episode 7, yes.
Which one was it?
Well, we kind of skipped over that because it was mostly a recap episode, but in the bathhouse, it was a bathhouse run by a evil fox woman.
Okay.
With a bunch of evil bunny women.
That even more raises the question then. Why are there no women manning the mechs for the beasts or the normal people?
I'll tell you right now, this is the only thing I will spoil for you. The women get mechs.
But why don't they have mechs already?
Because they're hard to get.
No, No, but none of the women have mechs.
Because
no,
they're hard to get.
But all of the men,
Not all
beast
of the men.
and human, they get mechs. But yet, for some reason, not even one woman has by chance gotten a mech. You're not seeing how it's a little bit iffy there? You're not seeing how gender roles are being very skewed when we got the black sibling girls and Yoko. Meanwhile, all of them are left without mechs. All the guys in the main group, they get mechs, and it's a little bit iffy there so far.
They do get mechs, the majority of them.
So far.
We're only 8 episodes in, Rem.
Only.
Rem, unlike you specifically, the rest of the world tend to like long-running series.
And I can really enjoy a long-running series, but that doesn't give you an excuse to not do anything for 8 episodes. You need to make every episode worthwhile, just as worthwhile as if it was a shorter series. Otherwise, it's called filler, because you're padding for time. So, I can agree, longer series are fine, but there's never an excuse for only 8 episodes. It can be small in relative to everything, but it's not small in of itself, and you should still have done something. Even if it's a small portion overall, that will affect the relative position, but not the absolute position. You should still have strong storytellings. And so far, Gurren Lagann has treated its women pretty shittily. Maybe that changes. I'm sure it does. But so far, can you name a woman that has not, 1, been obsessed with Kamina, and 2, has had relevance, and 3, isn't 6 years old?
See, you put that last one. Does Liron count?
Liron is non-binary, so they do not count as a man or a woman. Even though, first of all, Liron is into Kamina. But has become a decent character. So because Yoko has been horribly disappointing as a character so far. So far, she has just been generally fiery into Kamina, and her existence has been basically like, think of the other side of the coin as Sinon from Sword Art, and in these 8 episodes, that's what she is. In fact, I would argue you could switch them and tell almost identical stories.
Oh God, this is rough. So the thing with Yoko is, yeah, she's kind of a bait for fan service. That's primarily on the creators of this show because, let's be real, the creators of this show are a bunch of perverts.
Oh yeah, no,
and
100%.
They love their sexy, ecchi stuff. But that doesn't mean that they don't value their characters. Yoko has a fantastic character arc, as well as how she helps motivate Simon and Kamina are subtle but fantastic. She denies a lot of the stupidness that Kamina does, which in turn helps Simon realize that Kamina isn't as perfect as he believes he is.
We've yet to see that element from Simon really much at all. I don't know, he's still pretty much under the belief that Kamina's relatively perfect.
And he will be for a while.
So far in 8 episodes, Yoko has served essentially just to support the 2 main characters. Her strongest relationship, I guess, is with Liron before they show up, but they don't seem to have that strong of a bond besides talking to each other occasionally. Like, they seem to have as strong a bond as when Liron talks with literally anyone. She didn't have a strong bond with the leader of her tribe or any of her tribe mates who she had known all her life. She only cares about the main characters, and her only goals are supporting the main characters. She has nothing in of herself so far, and that's horribly disappointing.
She does have things in and of herself. You just...
And what are those things?
Those things are she wants to go and protect her family at the village by stopping the beastmen from coming. The whole point of what they're doing is to find where the beastmen are coming from and stop them from killing her friends and family. And that's why she leaves to help. Also because she believes in Kamina and in a little bit in Simon.
I guess that's still not much to go on. That's a nice broad goal, but there's still very little personality. I think it would be hard to disagree that in the first 8 episodes, the vast majority of dialogue, characterization, and character work has been sexualizing her or her supporting the main characters. It's not the totality of everything, but it's undeniably the majority so far.
That is true.
Which is unfortunate considering she's supposed to be the 3rd most important character thus far, and that's how they're treating her. Meanwhile, the other 3 girls that are in the group are also also just, yeah, they're the sisters, and that's all they are so far. It's treated the women pretty damn bad so far, especially in contrast to the men.
Hell, I'll tell you right now, I can't repeat this enough, but the women become some of the most powerful characters in this show.
But can you agree that in 8 whole episodes so far, in 3.5 to 4 hours, it has been very unfair to them compared to the men who have overwhelmingly dominated things?
I suppose.
There we go. That's all I needed to hear. So ultimately, I think that Simone has been a pretty one-dimensional character thus far. Like, I've labeled him as Deku Light because I truly just view him as a less interesting version of Deku, largely because we haven't even seen that proper growth yet, whereas at least with Deku, we started to see that. And Deku was one of my least favorite characters in the first season of My Hero Aka. So he's fine. He's there. He's a one-note pony. That's it. That's all he exists to be, similar to Yoko. The only one with some characterization was Kamina. I'm glad they made the strong decision to kill him. I genuinely didn't think they would. I thought it was a fake out. And
look at that screenshot and tell me he's not fucking dead.
Shaun, you could find many screenshots like that in anime, and it would be like, oh, but they're not dead. They just want you to think of it. May I guide you to all of JoJo, especially season 1.
That's just Dio, though. Dio is a persistent son of a bitch.
I still want to comment. I still don't think Dio's dead, even though he didn't show up in season 2, though that him not showing up in season 2, I thought he would. But nonetheless, I think that maybe this is a very good show, and once again, I'm still going to trust you, but those first 8 episodes, they didn't have good characters, they didn't have strong dialogue, there was one relationship that was mostly told rather than shown, though it was shown quite a bit. Meanwhile, all of the others felt either obvious or completely non-existent. It feels like there's very little stakes because the vast majority of the time, you'll just have a Deus Ex Machina, to the point that, and I'll still take the blame for this, I genuinely didn't even think the character was dead, but I'm glad. That is a good decision. That is the strongest decision they have made, easily, bar none.
I just don't know how you didn't think he was dead. I'm rewatching the scene right now, and I'm just like, okay, that's a classic trope of being dead. That's a corpse. Everybody is staring at the corpse, crying, not going to help him. It's fucking raining. That's usually a pretty big sign in a show that somebody's dead.
I agree that all those signs are there, but at the same time, it's already tried to be like, wow, this is going to happen. This is really intense. Aren't you really frightened? Nah. As well as already other anime have tried to pull this, where it's like, oh yeah, they dead. How sad. Not. Shonen has broken me with death, but I'm glad they made that decision.
His last words were later, buddy, and that's the title of the fucking episode.
I'm aware, Shaun.
I don't know how much clearer it could be. I mean, fuck, Hughes' death was less clear than that.
It's not that it wasn't clear. It's that it was so obviously clear that, as with so much of this show, I thought it was trying to do a very blatant fake out.
Oh.
Tell me, if they were to do a fake out, what would it look like? That? Yeah, I thought so.
No. Every time they've done a fake out, Rem, it's usually been played for laughs. Not great laughs, mind, but laughs.
Yeah, not very funny.
But the one time they actually do have a very successful character death, which, by the way, everybody freaked the fuck out when he died because they did not think he was going to die, much like you.
No, I mean, I'll label it as a success.
But everybody by the end of the episode was like, oh shit, he's actually dead.
No, in fact, it was, I think it was the episode before that I wrote the kill Kamina. I think that there's a good chance that if I didn't write down myself, kill Kamina, and that's the right decision to make, if I didn't write that down, I probably would have believed it, but the fact that I wrote it down, I was like, I'm not buying it.
You played yourself.
Yeah, I accept that.
Hachi machi, Rem.
But I mean, hey, my misunderstanding leads to the strongest compliment I can give the show.
Oh, we're gonna have to come back to this show relatively soon, I think.
Oh God, please no.
You said you trusted me on that it got better.
Yeah, I trust you, but I'm all Gurren Lagann out for a while.
It's not gonna be anytime relatively soon, but
God.
in the grand scheme of things, within the year at least.
Within the year, but the year's ending. The year's coming to
3
close.
months, Rem. That's not that long.
Not long enough.
Come on. I made you watch Sword Art Online 2 episodes in a row.
Fuck.
You don't think I
Overall-
would do this for a show I like?
Overall, to start wrapping things up a bit, I think that so far the show has far from impressed me. I think it's made one real good decision and a whole lot of very questionable ones. I wrote down that it felt a lot like off-brand Gundam mixed with fairy tale, and in a lot of moments it definitely did. I'm trusting you that it gets better, but I cannot in good faith recommend that anybody watches these first 8 episodes. I think it would be far more interesting for them to start on episode 9, especially knowing that now Kamina's dead. I think that would be a great way to start things off. Like, unironically, I think that would be an amazing way to watch this show, especially if it gets good after. But so far, I really wanted to like it. I was optimistic until about like episode 4 or 5, and then I just couldn't bring myself to any more optimism. It'd be really good for young audiences, but I struggle to think how older audiences, if you were super into things like, if you were super into classic shonen like D. Gray Man and Sword Art Online, you will love this show.
You just called Sword Art Online a classic.
I mean, it sort of is.
It's not.
I mean, it's wildly popular.
That doesn't make it a classic, Rem.
I think it's a classic. I don't think that classics need to be things I enjoy, because I also included D. Gray Man, which
D. Gray Man's not classic either.
it's pretty much in the same category. Just of those wildly popular commercialized shonen. If you like those, you'll like this.
I wish I could talk about the themes of the show as a whole. How the show is really about Simon becoming the kind of person he's always had the potential to be, the strength of character that his mentor Kamina had on him as a person, the ideals of friendship and companionship that this show brings forward, and just the sheer willpower that this show has given me and thousands upon thousands of other people. But I fucking can't, because I can only show you so much at a time without you killing yourself. You have a hair trigger on that suicide gun, man, and I don't want you to pull it yet.
Here, let me say this. I'm glad that it's had such an impact. If you're someone who's more inclined to, if you're someone who wants that message, but may not be into shonen of this nature, I have a different anime recommendation that also focuses on finding yourself.
I swear to
Watch Kiki's Delivery Service. We saw it just last week. I think it has a similar message and does it much better. Now you're at a standstill, Shaun. Do you diss Kiki's or do you accept my claim? I've put you in quite the position, Mr. Rollins.
Gurren Lagann has a way better ending than Kiki's Delivery Service ever could.
So you see, I can't say that, but I mean, I didn't like the ending, so there's a good chance. Fair response.
The messages are similar but different. God. Oh, this is gonna haunt me for the rest of the week, month, year, whatever, until we can watch the rest of the series. And unfortunately, I think I'm only gonna be able to get you to finish the series in 3 parts, because if I show you more than 8 episodes at a time, you will kill me and yourself and everybody else in the room.
Especially if it's not good.
You know, you make fun of the weebs a lot, Rem.
I do, yeah.
But
I mean, the weebs also make fun of me a lot, so I feel like it's a good
it is fair.
relationship.
It is fair. It's not just the weebs that love this show, though. There are so many people out there that do. When this show first came out, it won several animation awards, including storytelling and writing and character design awards, which is saying a lot, considering 2006, 2007, and 2011 are widely regarded as some of the best years for anime storytelling out there. Which is amazing to say, and more recently people say 2018 was a great year for anime storytelling as well. But this show has had such an impact on anime as a whole that it gets frequently referenced in other shows throughout. And I mean, you've seen the Gurren Lagann style pointed sunglasses everywhere. I know for a fact you have.
I mean, I guess.
The impact of this show has been felt for years and years to come, and more people will still love this show and rewatch it to get the same feelings of satisfaction and manly spirit, as well as the willpower to do what needs to be done, because you have the faith within yourself to get it done. Believe in the me that believes in myself. You know, it seems like a stupid line in the first introduction of it, but by the end of this show, that line becomes a bit of a lifestyle for some people.
Oh no, I think that those little slogans that they had, their catchphrases, probably the only good dialogue dialogue, in my opinion, so far.
At least you can agree that they're the best dialogue of the show, because those placations, Kamina's philosophy, in those simple words are what drive all of the characters to do what needs to be done, as well as the entire story to come. I wish I could have gotten you to sit through the entire goddamn thing, but I knew you would have hated it just out of principle if I did. So until then, Remington, this is probably our longest fucking episode yet, because we are at, oh god, over nearly 2 hours recording.
Oof.
So if you've stuck with us for that long, good on ya. But I have one final question to ask, Rem. Will you watch some more Gurren Lagann with me?
Maybe at a later date when I feel like I trust you quite a bit, but I would rather not in the near future.
I'll accept that for now, Remington. But as for the rest of you, go watch this show. And I suppose you could skip those things.
Do it.
But I'm gonna say that if you push through them, you're fine. Though I will say you can skip episode 7. There's not much at episode 7.
I think it was wasn't episode 6?
Oh, it was episode 6, excuse me, episode 6. Episode 7, wildly important.
Wow.
Episode 6, yeah, can skip through. That's fine. It's, the public release is a highlights reel, whereas the Blu-ray release is just a fan service comedy fest, which is good if you like that kind of thing. But me personally, it's my least favorite episode in the entire series. Just watch like the last 5 minutes of that episode, and then you'll be good for the rest of it. And by the end of the series, you'll understand why those episodes are important, why everything Kamina did had the impact it did, and why this show is as amazing as it is. But until then, thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. If you enjoyed, well, my anguish and sadness, then please leave a review on whatever platform you listen on, whether that be Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Stitcher, Spotify, or if you really want to help us grow, word of mouth is the best way to do it.
And if you would like to contact us directly, whether it is for a comment, question, feedback, or recommendation, then you can either tweet us at AnimeConPod on Twitter, or you can send an email over onto animeoutofcontext@gmail.com.
Once again, thank you all so much for tuning in, and as always, don't fuck your sister.
Da, 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 da.